the moment I finished, she told me that the pain in that particular spot was completely gone. This is a very unorthodox way of using 5506. In most cases with Master Tung, we use needles and not Moxa, but this is why it's so important to learn how to integrate different techniques. This was a very different case. This was a patient that came in because she was having migraine-like symptoms, but in fact what she was having was pain in the cranial nerves. This was cranial nerve neuropathy. This came from a surgery that she had years and years ago for thyroid cancer, and the surgeon touched several of her cranial nerves, and now every now and then she has these migraine-like episodes that come from the cranial nerve problems. In this case, what the patient was suffering was a very strong headache that came also with photosensitivity. She was feeling nauseous, and she was also feeling like she was going to faint. She was very weak, very tired. She almost didn't come to the appointment because she said it was very hard for her to leave her home, but she came because she thought that I might help her. The basic idea of the treatment was to calm her headaches and also give her some energy. But I didn't want to use too many needles or too strong a stimulation because I was afraid that she was going to faint in the table or feel even more nauseous by the end of the treatment. So I did a very simple treatment with basic points for headaches and for energy that if you follow the channel, for sure you've seen me use. If you'd like to learn more about the techniques that I talk about in my videos, check out the courses I have available. I have courses in Portuguese and in English, so check them out in the links below. In these courses I teach the balanced method to treat pain. This is a technique where you get instant relief in most pain cases, so if you want to learn about it, check them out. Let's analyze the case. As I said, this was a female patient. She was 40 years old, and she came with pain in her cranial nerves, neuropathy of her cranial nerves, headaches, migraine-like symptoms, tiredness, and I wanted to devise a very simple treatment with not so many needles, points that are not too strong, because I wanted the patient to feel better, but I didn't want to overstimulate her body because I was afraid that her body wouldn't be able to take this. I was afraid that her body wouldn't be able to take a manipulation that was too strong because she felt very weak and very faint. Her pain was throughout all of her head, but mostly on her left side and mainly on the front and lateral sides of the head. So I was already thinking about young main channels and also gallbladder. And what I did was, on her opposite side, I used Lingu or 2205. It's a point in the hand, it's a point in the large intestine channel, which we know balances the stomach. It's a point that's amazing for headaches. And looking at the Shunjing, Lingu has the Shunjing of the lung, the heart and the kidney, which can be very good to give energy to the patient, which was something that we needed to. On her legs, I used also on the opposite side lever 3, because it's a very good point for headaches and to balance the gallbladder. And on the other leg I used gallbladder 41, the guiding needle for the gallbladder, and also stomach 36. Here you might think about using stomach 43 or Master Tung 66.05, but here I wanted a point that was more nurturing and tonifying. It's not in a perfect image to treat the head, but it will balance the stomach channel and it will also nurture and give some energy to the patient without demanding so much, because I didn't want to use too many points from her extremities because I was afraid of, again, making the patient feel worse, feel more nauseous, feel more faint. And as we know, stomach 36 is a great point for nausea. And on the left arm, I also used pericard 6 for the nausea. I left the patient like this for a few minutes, and when I came back, she told me that the nausea went way down, that the pain she was feeling in the head, and also she had some pain in her neck, also went way down, but she was still feeling a very specific point on the top to the side of her head that was very painful. She described it as if she was getting a knife stabbed through her skull. And this would get worse sometimes, and the nausea would come back. Then it would start to go away, but never completely leave her, and she would have a very strong pain there. And I started thinking, what points could we use that work on the cranial nerves? And I remembered Master Tung's 55.06, or Shangliu, that can be translated to tumor up high or higher tumor. As you can see here in the image, this point has the shunging of the brain. It's very close to the heel, so it's a very good image to the head, and its main indications are for brain tumors, but it can also treat problems related to the cranial nerves, namely pain. But as I said, I didn't want to use points that are too strong. I didn't want to add any more needles. So I was afraid to needle this point, which is a point that's very demanding for the patient. So I decided to use Moxa on this point. So I used on the side of the pain, which was her left side, 55.06, using 3 rice grains of Moxa. So I was using okyu, or direct Moxa, and I used the grains of rice, and I burned them 100%. So I let the grain of rice burn until it touches the skin of the patient. This gives a very strong but very quick stimulation that, in my opinion, can be lighter than the stimulation you get from a needle. I know whenever I talk about Moxa, you ask me to see the technique, so let's switch cameras so you guys can watch me make a grain of rice from Moxa and apply it, not on the patient, but just to show you how it's done. Okay, for this technique we're going to need Moxa, in this case golden Moxa, and it's very important that you buy the very best Moxa you can. In this case, this is 5-star Moxa, because you want a very pure Moxa, because you need it to burn quickly. If you're not doing 100% burns, it's not as important, but if you're doing 100%, and if you're not using good Moxa, it will burn slower, and you will leave a nasty burn on the patient, which is not nice. I'm going to show you here the technique on a piece of paper so that you can see that you can do 1 rice grain and you won't even burn the paper. This is Shiunko cream. This is a cream made from herbs that's made both to protect the skin and also to give you something that the Moxa can stick to. So we're going to stick here a little bit of cream. This is the incense that we will use to light up the Moxa. You just light it up. There's several different ways of holding it. I like to hold it here between these fingers of my dominant hand. We'll take a little piece of Moxa like this, and we will roll it between our fingers until it starts popping out. Just take one little bit. You see it is more or less the shape of 1 grain of rice, but very small, and we plant it on our patient. I will now change the angle so you can see how it burns. And as you see, we will just slightly touch it with the incense so it lights up, and it needs to burn really fast. And now the cool part that I wanted to show you, even if you clean this up, as you can see, we didn't even burn the paper. And I did 3 cones of Moxa on her heel. And the moment I finished, she told me that the pain in that particular spot was completely gone. We finished the needle retention, and when I took it off, the patient told me that she was feeling 100% fine, as if nothing happened. I saw the patient in the following week, and she told me that that was enough to solve her crisis. Usually this crisis with her could last up to 3 days. And this was the first day of the crisis, and we stopped it with acupuncture. This is a very unorthodox way of using 5506. In most cases with Master Tung, we use needles and not Moxa, but this is why it's so important to learn how to integrate different techniques. You've seen me here talk about integrating Master Tung, integrating balanced methods together, integrating TCM concepts, and here we're integrating Moxa. That's why it's so important that an acupuncturist has a lot of tools in their belt so they can apply the most appropriate tool in each situation. I'm not saying that you couldn't solve this with a needle, but the chances that the patient would feel overwhelmed, that the patient would maybe even faint or feel more nauseous were very high. With Moxa, we were able to do a lighter stimulation, but still strong enough to solve the problem. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and share this video with anyone that might benefit from it, and I'll see you in the next one.